back with more exciting action here on Martial Arts Today Television. And I'll tell you, I'm so excited. I'm like at the Martial Arts Mecca here at the Martial Arts History Museum. And I'm here with the curator and creator of the Martial Arts History Museum, Michael Matsuda. Michael, it's so great to finally meet you.
Thank you very much.
So psyched about Yeah, I'm really excited about this. This place is phenomenal. It's just
thanks.
incredible. The first question I always ask all my interviewees is, how did you begin in the martial arts?
My dad had, actually I started around 1967. That's when I started. I was introduced to a guy who was doing a little bit of Kung Fu. He was one of Ak Wai Wong's students. And he started showing me a little Kung Fu. I was a little kid. And that was, I got a little bit from him. That was really my first introduction, probably a year's worth of an unofficial studying with him. And then my father, who had been doing judo when he was back in the 1920s, he got us to start learning judo. We were very involved at the Japanese Community Center, and they had a judo class. And typically they didn't allow kids 16 and under in martial arts. It's just the way it was then. But two of us really wanted to get in. We were only 8 years old, and they let me and my friend Donalisa in. So we were the two smallest kids in judo. They flipped us around like crazy, like we were rag dolls. But one day I got jumped when I was in 5th grade. The guy jumped on my back, and what did I do? I did a judo flip, and I said, that's it, martial arts is for me. So that was really my starting martial arts, and then I continued it thereafter.
Wow, that's a fantastic story, and especially at such a young age. I know you through going to martial arts magazines and whatnot. Followed your career for many years. How did you get involved in monkey style kung fu?
I had been doing Hungar Kung Fu, Shaolin style. I met Al Dacascos. I was doing jiu-jitsu at the time, and Al Dacascos came into the studio to say hello, did a few moves, a little demonstration. And I said, that's it, that's for me. I'm going to find a Kung Fu studio. And I did. I found a Kung Fu studio under Buxom Kong's group. Did that for about 6 or 7 years. And then a guy came in, and he started learning, and he wasn't that good, but we became friends. And he started saying, hey, I'm going to this place in the university, and some guy's teaching me some Kung Fu. Do you want to learn it? And I said, yeah, sure. So after we would go to the Shaolin Kung Fu class, I'd go to his house, I'd show him Shaolin to get him caught up with me, because I was 3 years a senior already. And then he would show me these techniques that the guy taught him. And lo and behold, it was Monkey Kung Fu. So we didn't even know it at the time, so I was his first student, really. And then I just continued in Monkey with him for 35 years. So I've been doing it now for 45 years, Monkey Kung Fu.
Amazing. For our viewers, Buxom Kong, one of the legends of Kung Fu, specifically Hungar Kung Fu, originally from Hawaii and also taught in California as well, and is the notable author of 2 very famous books on Hungar Kung Fu, notably Hungar Kung Fu, that was put up by O'Hara Publications, and later the famous Tiger Crane form of Hungar. Again, that's quite an honor to have worked with him. So the fascination with being something so different, and your instructor was known for his unbelievable flexibility, his performances at the International Karate Championships, and then of course from there, how did you get involved in martial arts media, in the magazines and whatnot?
Well, while I was going through the martial arts, I got to know everybody since the early days. Starting at 7 years old, even though I wasn't a participant in the tournaments because I was too young. But I remember when Chuck Norris was competing, and these guys were competing. I used to go to the Forum, not far from here, where Gene LaBelle would fight. So I'd watch Gene LaBelle wrestle, which was really cool. And then, lo and behold, Lily Rodriguez, at the time, was one of the bombers, one of the T-Birds, if you remember roller skating.
Oh yeah, roller derby, you bet.
And I was there watching Lily. Now, I did not know that was her. And somebody told me a year ago, oh yeah, she was in the bombers. I said, oh my God, I remember her. Because she had these eyes, these dark eyes, and she was really good. And I said, I remember really well. That's Lily. So I've known Lily since I was 8. So she used to come over to my house, and my mom would seam the dresses for Lily. So I knew the Benny Yukitas family for many years, for growing up all my life. But I got to know everybody throughout the years. So everybody, Fumio Demuro, when he first came over, all these people I got to know as a relationship. So I thought it'd be great to start writing about them. So I went and got a journalism degree, and after I got my journalism degree, I continued in college, and that's when I started writing for the magazines. I started writing for Inside Kung Fu first, and then I did the Bruce Lee 10 years thereafter. It was my first article, got the cover, and then I started writing for Black Belt magazine. So I wrote for them a total of 20 years. And then later I started my own magazine called Martial Art Magazine in 1984. I did that for about 4 or 5 years, and I sold that as well. But I love the publications. I enjoy doing it, and it was nice to get to know people a little bit more, Jun Chong and all these people a little bit more as I wrote about them. So it was fun to do the magazines.
For our viewers, a couple of people you might not be familiar with, Lily Rodriguez, originally Lily Urquidez, who later would marry Blinky Rodriguez, who was a top kickboxer and coach as well. Also, Al Dacascos, the founder of Wunhop Kwendo, which is the Chinese offshoot of Kaju Kenpo, incorporating many of the Kung Fu systems he studied with people such as Wong Jack Man, who many people know of his famous fight with Bruce Lee, as well as his legendary study in Northern style Kung Fu's in the Bay Area. Again, you know, and I can proudly say that I have literally every single issue of Inside Kung Fu from issue 1 to its close, and I have all your articles from over the years.
Yeah.
This is why on many levels it's so great to finally meet you, and it means so much to me. And you know, we literally are in a martial arts mecca. So the question comes, now that we are here, how did this all begin? How did you come up with the idea and the creation of this incredible museum?
Oh my God! Starting the museum is something I tell people don't do because it's really hard.
Right.
It's really hard. After I was writing for the magazines, I said, you know, I really wanted to focus on history. And I thought because the magazines weren't doing enough, and especially, you know, Black Belt, which is the magazine, you know, the primary one, none of their people were martial artists at all, only the owners.
Wow.
The writers were not martial artists. And I said, you know, they're looking at it from a point of view that people who are not martial artists.
Right.
And I said, we need to look at it through the eyes of a martial artist.
Amen.
So I said, you know, what would be good is to have a museum. A museum would keep our history alive, and I think that would be better because once a magazine's gone, nobody remembers the next issue. You know, who was on the cover of the last one? And now, today, they're all gone except 1 or 2.
Yeah, that's sadly true.
And I thought it'd be nice to have but I had no idea how to do a museum. So I went back to the university, different universities for 8 more years to learn how to do it. Now I'm working all this time as a producer.
Right.
So doing commercials and stuff. But I went to learn how to do it, museum studies, the design, everything, because I did not want this to fail. I got a business degree. I got everything that I needed to know to start a business, and especially a museum. And that's what I did. I went all over. Finally, after about 8 years, I said, okay, I'm going to take this on the road. Contacted all my friends, Doug Wong, all these people, and I borrowed everything you can think of. Eric Lee stuff, James Liu stuff, everybody's stuff, and I took it on the road. We were a small exhibit, and then all of a sudden we were a 1,000 square foot exhibit, taking a truck all over the nation to different places to get people interested. And then once we were there, we felt there was enough interest. I said, okay, we're going to go forward with a full-fledged place. And that's when we opened our doors for a regular museum. But we had to take it on the road, really test the waters, and make sure this was going to work. And this is our 23rd year now.
I was going to say 1999 is when
Right.
it all began.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is, again, you really have to be here. It's worth the trip. If you're a martial artist and you want to learn more about the history of the various martial arts, and you know, we follow in the footsteps of our masters and instructors and inspirations. And as I go through this incredible facility, and let's talk about the facility itself. An important ingredient of it is the various set pieces. You have a beautiful original, one of the original soldiers, the terracotta warriors that were buried with the first, and you also were looking at across from us this beautiful setup with many of the Chinese weapons, and looks like the Great Wall of China and the circular doorway and set. How did all that come about? That has an interesting story behind it.
Well, you know, growing up with everybody, everybody's very kind to either loan me stuff or donate stuff. 99% of the stuff here is donated. And, you know, you get part of history. You know, I remember Dak Bai Wong and those guys in the Chinese drum, and I'm looking right across from me and I could see Dak Bai Wong's drum. You know, in here we have Y.C. Wong's stuff, and we have Takabota's uniform, and we have many people that have been so generous, because they've gotten to know me over the years, and have been just so generous, and they see the museum is succeeding, and we're not a fly-by-night stuff, you know. People have tried this before, and that only lasted a year once on a Bruce Lee museum. They tried at the store, and you know, and now we're in our 23rd year. And people are, you know, giving us and donating stuff. We just got George Chung's uniform. So we're trying to get both the uniforms and the artifacts from different places in history, in different parts in history. I think it's important that we have that as a good reference for people to learn from. And especially the uniforms, even though I won't flood the place with uniforms, it's nice to have a uniform if you're talking about that area, Choi Li Fut. There's maybe Lao Bun's uniform, or you know, Dak Bai Wong's uniform, or Hung Gar, you got Buxom Kong's uniform, or you know, Lam Zhou's uniform, or someone like that. You know, so it's nice to have that little actual thing there.
That they tangibly wore. I mean, and as I walk through here, again, whether it's Fumio Demora, Ralph Castro, I'm looking at Eric Lee's top from the 1970s, Al DeCascos. There's a wonderful set piece of the costume that Cynthia Rothrock wore in Sci Fighters. Again, even Master Ken has donated a uniform. And to see these different individuals from the different elements in martial arts is just a joy, where you know that they wore those uniforms. They competed, or they taught in those uniforms. Bong Su Han's another one. I mean, it's just phenomenal. And again, the weapons collection is incredible. I'm a Class A weapons freak. I admitted I have over 1,000 weapons.
Oh yeah, I got a ton of them, Adam. There's too many to put out.
Oh yeah, it's one of those where you want to go in the back and look through the stuff. You know, I would do that with the Whaling Museum with their incredible Polynesian weapon collection.
Oh yeah,
amazing. But this is phenomenal. But again, we also talked about the video presentations. There were several screen TVs where you can watch about the history. Another important ingredient that I fell in love when I saw it is the animated figures like you have with the tiki. Tell me about the talking tiki.
You know, as we get people's help from Disney, DreamWorks, and all that, and I'm one of the guys from Disney.
Right.
I used to be an artist from Disney years ago, and as part of that, I wanted to put some of the animatronic. You know, I wanted to make it fun for the kids and add a little special thing, a talking tiki, or we have talking dragon heads and other stuff around to, you know, for the kids to be more interested. And I know this is an exciting museum, and the kids come and they go, ooh, look at that lion head and all that. But it's kind of cool if the lion head talks a little bit. So we kind of added just that fun little touch, that Disney touch to it, you know, because to me, Walt Disney is a great role model. And I would love to have the martial arts kind of mirror his success, and to bring out the awareness, like Disney brings out the awareness to animation and all that. I want to bring the awareness to martial arts as well. So that's why we had the little fun little stuff, like the talking heads or little animatronics or stuff like that, to keep the kids excited, and it looks pretty cool too.
Well, the kids are the kids at heart. We'll really enjoy that and appreciate that. Obviously, we're sitting behind the part of the samurai exhibit here at the museum. So tell me about some. I see. Matter of fact, I was just talking with one of my students about this, and I said we're on our pilgrimage, and of course, one of the places we have to stop by is Valley Martial Arts Supply, and I see that one of the samurai armors was donated by Valley Martial Arts Supply. And so tell me about, again, just an example for our viewers, because you can actually literally see it. Talk to me about the creation of this portion of your exhibit of the museum.
Well, what we tried to do is, because of space-wise, focus mostly on Asian culture and history.
Sure.
That's probably the main focus of the museum. Though it will go out to other areas, wrestling and boxing and capoeira and all that stuff when we get the bigger place. Sure. But the main focus has been Asian culture and history. And we kind of divided in Japan, China, Korea, and so on. And it'd be nice to have some of the items from there. And obviously we couldn't get some of the original old items, but it's nice to have any item that represented, like the samurai. The samurai replica of the actual outfits. And it is a little bit of a touchy-feely museum. I don't tell the kids that much because they'll grab it and throw it on the ground. But it's okay to kind of touch it and kind of feel it a little bit, and that way they get a little bit more experience. So people have been very generous to donate their items here, like Valley Martial Arts Supply and many others, because they know, like for example, Steve Lambert had the mask of the Revenge of the Ninja.
Yes, and I saw that in the game. I remember when you had gotten it from him, and I was like, wow, okay, I remember that vividly.
Right.
And I think that's the beauty of it, that as I go around through this, and I'm naming, like I'm looking at this wall with the Chinese weapons, and I'm talking about the deer horn knives, elk horn knives, and I know Gerald Okamura had created that design for Taipan. So to know that and actually have a set of those and know the background of where someone here, for lack of a better term, locally in California, I know the background. I'm playing Paul Harvey with the rest of the story as I go around through this place. It's phenomenal. Like I said, if you're a brand new martial artist, or you've been in the arts for decades, you have to make a pilgrimage to this location. You've got to stop, visit by at the Martial Arts History Museum. Now, again, for our viewers, when are you open? Where are you located? So they can come visit.
Well, one thing I want to add, if you don't mind.
Oh, by all means.
When Steve Lambert donated the mask, he said, I had it in my drawer, and I'd open it, see it, put it back in the drawer. 5 years later, I open it, see it, put it back in the drawer, and he said, what am I doing with this sitting in the drawer? It should be at the museum where people can enjoy it, where I can come and visit it. If I wanted to, my name will be on it. How cool is that? So we encourage people to do that because, you know, I talked to one person that had Joe Lewis's uniform. We had tried to get his uniform for years, never could. And then he passed away, and someone says, oh yeah, I have his uniform. It's in my closet. It's been in his closet for what, 5 years now, something like that? And if someone doesn't know what it is, they're going to throw it away. And that's what we're trying to do, prevent that from being lost. So we encourage people to donate their uniform, you know, especially those of the Hall of Famers or those who have made impact on history, to donate those uniforms or these artifacts or things like that that we can keep for history. Because again, if we don't keep it, it's going to be lost. You know, Benny Ukita said it so eloquently. He said that, you know, if it isn't for the Martial Arts History Museum, if this doesn't last, everything I did, everything I accomplished will be forgotten forever. So that's how important I believe it is for history. I'm very passionate about the museum because I grew up with these guys. And it's part of my life as it's part of yours. It's a big part of our lives. And what better way to give back to the martial arts than keeping its history alive through the museum. So I cannot stress that enough. And we need people's support to come on board to help us.
You know, a classic example story, we have a local gentleman from Fall River, Massachusetts, Bill Massarelli. And Bill Massarelli and Professor Nick Sirio went to train with Professor Chow. And Professor Chow was so in there because they worked, they trained hard, they were the same height, so they could relate to each other. And over the years, Professor Chow must have given 25 to 30 posters. I mean, full blown, 2x4 posters. Professor Chow, full body, standing there, autographed, and photos, and different things. And unfortunately, that gentleman passed away, and his student that was in charge of it had problems that went on. I have no clue where that is.
Yeah.
All these incredible photos of one of the greatest Kenpo grandmasters and the impetus for Adriano Imperato and Ed Parker. No clue. Don't know where it is. And this is why it's so critically important that this museum exists, that so many people can donate it, and there's a legacy. And as a martial arts historian myself, and people tell me that around the world, you know, I walk in here and I'm naming people and I'm naming times and I'm like, I'm having a field day here. And it's critically important that people donate to this. It's critically important that this continues. And you always joke around on and it's not a joke, it's what you really ask about. And you're hoping that one day someone walks in with like $5 million. And I remember that was the number, $5 million. And when I saw the lottery for $1 billion recently with Mega Millions, I'm like, oh, please, come on.
Me too as well.
5 million. Do 5 million. Walk in the door and smile. Hey, Michael, guess what? It's 5 mil. And just because it's so critically important for the future of our, and we talk about last thing, magazines. What's a magazine? Well, how many martial arts magazines are left? Everything's digital now.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, everybody's on the cloud. You know, so I can't emphasize enough to come here, make the pilgrimage, make the trip. It's worth the trip. Obviously, the reason I'm here is another event that you took a hold of that was originally created by Gerald Okamura, Dragonfest.
Right.
Talk to us about Dragonfest.
You know, Dragonfest, Gerald had it for 9 years and did a wonderful job. And after that, he stopped doing it. And nobody picked it up for 10 years. Nobody picked it up. And everybody kept bugging me. He said, Michael, you got to take a drive over Dragonfest. You guys got to restart it. It was so great. And I said, you know, after about 3 or 4 years of bugging me, I said, okay, let me call Gerald. So Gerald says, you have my blessing. You continue it. That's fine. So we did. I wanted to make sure I got his blessing. And we restarted it. And it's took it off like it never ended. And everybody's back all there and enjoying it. And we're having a great time coming up. And we're very excited to carry on the tradition of Gerald Okamura and keeping his legacy through the Dragonfest, besides here in the museum, but through the Dragonfest alive for more generations.
You don't know how ecstatic I am to finally meet Gerald Okamura. You know, I follow him in the magazines, and then the joys of the internet and Facebook and talking to him and contacting him. And I was like, Gerald, I want to meet you. I'm going to be at Dragonfest. Yeah, but I want to meet you. It's like I'm the drooling fanboy. Well, I'll meet you at Dragonfest. And I'm like, that's his line. I'll meet you at Dragonfest. And again, because of the horrors we've went through the last few years with COVID, it's so much more important that you attend this event. And again, contribute to it. Check it out. We're going to have footage from it. We're going to be filming live from with Facebook Live. And we're also going to be doing a complete episode on the legacy of Dragonfest. Again, thank you so much for taking time in your busy schedule to be able to do this. I know this is the week of Dragonfest, so you're running around like the proverbial one-legged man in a backside kicking contest to get everything done. And so this means all much more to me. So again, how do people contact you? Let's give all the contact information for our viewers about the Martial Arts History Museum.
Okay, you can contact us on our website as Martial Arts Museum or mamuseum.com. And we have many .coms for the museum, so anybody can find us. But mamuseum.com or call us at 818-478-1722. And we're there. We do our best, and hope people will come and visit us, and we can expand to a huge place.
And also, let's not forget about your wonderful work doing simulcasts on YouTube and Facebook on different things that are going on with the various events. Check that out through Martial Arts History Museum on Facebook. Again, social media, it's everywhere. And that's the beauty of it. And I'm very proud to be a regular, whenever possible, a contributor and a visitor when you do your live broadcasts. And we knew we had to do it. We had to be here at the Martial Arts History Museum. Michael, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And thank you for all your efforts over the years. And we'll be back with more exciting action here at the Martial Arts History Museum with Martial Arts Today Television. Stay tuned! And we're back, and we're getting all set to do a wonderful short tour, and again a short tour, but of the Martial Arts History Museum. Why? Because we want you to be here. Michael, let's start off again. We're in the pro shop here for the Martial Arts History Museum, and again talk about some of the different wares that people can pick up and purchase when they visit the museum.
Yeah, this is our most popular area for products. The logo, I designed the logo and we put it on the hats. It took me 5 years to get this dragon correct, but now it looks pretty good and we put on our hats. Also, we have our biography DVDs that I also produce. You know, A&E has their own biography series.
Sure.
And I said, we need one for the martial arts.
You bet.
So that's what we did. I went ahead and did these. And then I also did a lot of the books on the Hall of Famers, keeping our history alive.
Right.
And it's not a biography, but it's what they did to change history. And it's a nice piece of history, and it's kind of cool to get it autographed.
And this is the 4th year now.
Right, so we're now,
them.
Volume 4 is now out, which we're
Fantastic.
very proud of. And then we also have T-shirts for people to enjoy with the logo on there as well. So this all goes to help the museum.
Awesome. Now let's look at our first piece we got, and having worked with Mr. Parker from 1983 till his death in 1990, and many of the first generation, this is so important. It's the Elvis connection. And again, this is one of a depiction of one of Elvis's uniforms and the 7th degree black belt, which I had a person actually make one for 9th in the same design and pattern that I proudly have. And of course the classic Elvis Presley guitar with the IKK logo, which was put on by David Stanley, as a matter of fact.
Ah, yes.
And one of your famous autographed Elvis scarves. I mean, that's incredible. Wow. And of course, earlier we were talking about, let's move over here for a moment, we were talking about the Terracotta Warriors. And again, the wonderful depiction that you have here, and the wonderful Terracotta army from the first dynasty and the first emperor of China. And we're here, and we're talking about these incredible doorways and everything and all that. But we got to look up and see the wonderful image of Lopan.
Right,
from,
Lopan.
And, you know, I thought, I was like, I just noticed it. Wow, Lopan. And again, the carved dragon logo, which you had graciously created. All right, come on.
He actually talks to the kids, but...
really?
Yeah, but I didn't put him on, but he talks to the kids.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So here we're in the Chinese section for Kung Fu, and again, we talked about one of your famous instructors, Buxom Kong, and the wonderful art of Hungar Kung Fu, and the depictions of Bodhidharma, the walls from the Shaolin Temple, and of course the Great Wall, and it's just an amazing thing. And again, I love this about your background, and I think they're critically important. And as I was watching some of the TV representations, see some of the old photos of Ark Wong and our friend, mutual friend Carl Totten, about the legacy of the martial arts, and just so glad to be here. And of course, we got the big one here, of course, Bruce Lee.
Right, two of our biggest, most influential people. Bruce Lee, as you know, everybody's most popular still today. And then, of course, Ed Parker, the guy who really changed history, opened the doors to the Long Beach Internationals. Him and Bruce Tegner got martial arts on TV, and his most famous student, of course, Elvis Presley. So a lot of stuff he did.
You mentioned everything when we mentioned about Bruce Tegner, of course, Ricky Nelson with the Ozzie and Harriet show, and of course Mr. Parker through his roles in the Pink Panther movies as Mr. Chong from Hong Kong. But also before that, in the 1960s, The Courtship of Eddie's Father, which he actually did a demonstration with another gentleman who's depicted here, Bill Rasaki.
Yeah.
And again, it's really fun. So here's the background. Here's the Kenpo Joe moment. So this photo shoot is from 1985. And he shot this with Frank Trejo, who was another one of my instructors after Mr. Parker died. And the real funny story about this, at one point, Frank hits Mr. Parker at some point. So Mr. Parker's got two pictures. This is and there's one that's that, but there's another one where you watch Frank's nose go sideways. And I went, Frank, did he hit your nose? No, man, he did not break your nose. He said, yeah, we're doing a photo shoot, and I hit him at one point, blam, and I still have a picture of that shot, which I've seen through here as well. So that's from 1985, and that was for Karate Illustrated magazine. That was a 3-part article that they wrote at that time. But that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. Well, let's continue on. All right. Pause for a moment. I'll edit it later. And Michael, let's continue on. You know, we're another part, and it's interesting here that I see not only famous Ark Wong from the 5-family Kung Fu system, who literally was one of the first martial artists to teach Chinese martial arts in America, and phenomenal, best done here, and also one of, if I'm not mistaken, Alexander Fusheng.
Right, Fusheng.
Yeah.
Fusheng, to me, was my hero. I was doing martial arts before Bruce Lee was even on the scene. So my hero growing up, and the guy I really followed, was Alexander Fusheng, because he did Hungar.
Right.
So he was doing all the forms that we did, you know, with Buxom Kong. So I related to him a lot, and I said, I kind of look like him a little bit. And so that was my hero. That was been my inspiration. And then later, a few years later, Bruce Lee came out, and everybody was very excited about Bruce Lee. But he was the guy that inspired me first.
Well, Alexander Fusheng, one of the Shaw Brothers classics. You know, again, his comedic stylings. I mean, I always think that he was Jackie Chan before Jackie Chan was cool.
There would be no Jackie Chan.
Yeah, if it weren't for Alexander.
Still alive.
Amen.
Yeah.
Tragically, unfortunately, passed away in a car accident in Hong Kong. But what a legacy! And if you, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not familiar with his legacy through Shaw Brothers, please take the time in modern media, look him up, look up many of his wonderful films. I'm still trying to get the entire series of Brave Archer.
Ah, yes.
That was one of his classic opuses. All right, then let's continue on. So we're here, and again, there's a wonderful timeline that goes along all throughout the decades that Mr. Matsuda has put together, and it's wonderful seeing the various highlights. And again, we have a little depiction here from Kill Bill with the classic Hattori Hanzo sword, of course, depicted by Sonny Chiba, and who just recently passed away. And just what a legacy of this man from Street Fighter on up. But this particular role is so in keeping with his characterizations. And here's two of the big ones. So we were talking earlier about Steve Lambert, and here we have the face mask from Revenge of the Ninja. And just amazing that, like I said, we never know where people have stuff just sitting around that to us is amazing. To them, it's like, yeah, well, I did a movie once, but just incredible. Now, is this one of the Hakamachis directly from the Karate Kid? Or
Karate Kid 2, yes.
Wow.
This is worn by Ralph Macchio, taken off by the prop master and given to us personally.
Oh, amazing. And again, the background, you'll see the Cobra Kai back patch. Again, we, of course, with the formulator of the crane kick. And again, Mr. I just blanked out on his name. Can't believe it. The gentleman who did the crane kick, the Kenpo and Kaju Kenpo person.
Daryl Vidal.
Thank you. Yeah, well, he's had some articles, and we're hoping to do an interview with him and talk about his life and career. And so as we go along, again, part of the prop depiction, I presume, from Big Trouble in Little China. It's amazing. Gerald Okamura, for all his career, for his mastery of Kung Fu Sansu and his unique weapons creation, how do most people know him? The Bandito in Big Trouble in Little China. So tell me about these two pieces here.
Yeah, the first is given to us by James Liu. It is the actual piece that is used for the coffin. In the coffin scene.
When they draw it out, have to fight the gang.
And the other ones is the practice guns for the shoots, not the real ones they use, but the practice ones they use.
Oh, that's amazing.
He gave it to us.
That's amazing. All right, so we got to talk, and I love the comedic senses here because we are at one of the premier parts of the Martial Arts History Museum, Kung Pao, Enter the Fist, and the world famous Gopher Chucks. Talk to me about this.
Well, these are donated to us by Steve Odekirk. Steve, actually, we had all of the artifacts on display for a little while, the cow and everything for a while, but we kept these. We wanted to keep these to keep that history alive. So these are on permanent loan from Steve Odekirk.
Wow. And if you've ever seen this incredible comedy, it was funny because when I first saw the movie in the theaters, I saw the first performance. And the sad part was, I was the only guy laughing because I got all the jokes. It was funny, like we see the crushed squirrel, and of course the flattened squirrel by being crushed underfoot, and of course the classic phrase that I can never forget is, "That's a lot of nuts." and watching Ben in the outtakes just lose it, hearing it, turn it down, it's a little too loud. He just completely lost it. It was hilarious. Let's go on. So again. T-shirt from no less than Dan Inosanto.
Yeah, the one Dan and his sticks as well, and Cynthia Rothrock's uniform from the movie Sci-Fighter, later called Extreme Fighter.
Right, and I have him in with both titles on DVD, and of course Don the Dragon Wilson, Lorenzo Lamas. I mean the plethora of individuals involved in that film, and such a departure character as literally Cynthia portraying a superhero. Yeah. Like a mistress of the martial arts and a superhero. So that was a very interesting film. But again, we go on and like we talked about. Talk about the Mortal Kombat shield. We got to talk. So is this from the film? Or
yes, this is from the film, owned by Robin Shaw, and he brought this over to us.
Wow.
So that's actually from the film.
We have a local New England influence in the final scene where. Robin's character as Liu Kang has to fight the multiple clones that pop out of the sewer covers. And one of them was Lou Hopkins from Massachusetts, Louis Black Magic Hopkins. So, and of course below that we have Master Ken. And entered the dojo, and incredible work with a comedic sense of the martial arts. Also, as we look down, we see a pair of the trunks from Chuck Liddell from The Pit, and
that's the outfit from Chan Sao Chang.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that's
from
his
the
original
Monkey
outfit.
King himself.
Uh-huh.
And also the uniform is also for one by Ralph Macchio from Karate Kid.
The very first one. Uh-huh.
Wow, that's amazing. And that's what we're talking about. These incredible rarities and items that so many people really need to see to appreciate this wonderful facility. All right, let's go on. And we're now in the Thai section.
Right,
The
this is
entire
the
section of
Muay
Thailand.
Thai area. We have the shorts of Bacau, one of the top fighters,
Wow.
and Chai Sarasuti shorts as well. So very happy to have that, but we talk about the history and the culture of Muay Thai.
And not to mention, now again, we see the Krabi Krabong sword. Where is the championship from? I see the world, who is that from?
This was donated to us for the World Thai
Really?
Championships. Yeah, they were donated that to us.
Oh,
This
amazing.
is very nice to have.
And of course, we see the different garb, of course, the classic headband and forearm bands, and also the rare wrapped, old style Thai fighting with the reinforced knuckles to tear into the flesh, and then of course the spirit house and one of the shields used in Muay Thai Barang and Krabi Krabong. So just amazing. And the Hanuman mask of the Monkey King, the Chinese, well, the Thai version, I should say, of the Monkey King and its legacy. Amazing, amazing. All right, please let's go on. We're going into the next section on the tournament circuit. And again, I'm looking at this wonderful picture of Keith Vitale and Bill Superfoot Wallace versus
Gene LaBelle right there.
Judo Gene LaBelle. And again, the legacy he had in not only judo but also in professional wrestling for many years. Here with Jung Chong, and it's actually Simon Rhee, I should say Simon Rhee.
Right.
And I want to say he's either working with his brother or Jung Chong.
That's his brother.
Philip.
And you know what tournament that is?
No, I don't offhand.
Hyo Cho's tournament.
Ah!
Yeah, I took that picture in 1983.
Wow. Okay, so here's your interesting KENPO JOE fact. Did you know that Hyo Cho, when he first came from Korea, he didn't start martial arts on the West Coast. No, he started his Taekwondo instruction in Providence, Rhode Island. And a friend of mine's, Dave Arundel, was one of his students. And he actually has footage of him competing in tournaments in Rhode Island from back in the day. But that's where he started, was on the East Coast originally. Wow, very good. And of course, we've got a whole depiction here of animation in regards to martial arts, and so many aspects that I remember, such as Astro Boy, Gigantor, oh gosh, Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, Akira, again, Inuyasha, again, Yukio. It's amazing. Bleach, of course, and of course Afro Samurai with the classic Samuel L. Jackson portraying the voice of that. And we go on to anime, and I know my student behind the cameraman behind the camera, Aaron Jakes, will really get a kick out of this. And Yaya Han. So here's my KENPO JOE moment. I have a student involved in cosplay. His name is Raymond Ramus, and he was depicting in Bane, and he had everything done, but he had done it all himself. And Yaya was the judge for Boston Comic Con, and she was so taken aback. She was like, "All this is original. You made all of this. You didn't buy it. No, this is all handmade, all of it." And she was so taken. He won the Masters division. And Yaya is phenomenal. She's one of the top cosplayers. And you can also buy her cosplay materials and whatnot through Joanne Fabrics. Yeah, incredible woman. All right, so now we're in two of my favorite areas. One, of course, is the Filipino area, and of Ted Luke Luke. And I always, Luke Luke or Luke Lukai. I always asked about that. And again, the famous Lapu-Lapu, according to legend, the man who killed Magellan. And here we have a wonderful display of many of the different Filipino weapons, and again, Indonesian as well, from the 29 balisong, with the incredibly long balisong, the butterfly knife, the golok, and of course a depiction of the Filipino kris, and of course the kukri, or the Tagalog, yeah, amazing. And of course the dance sticks from the classic Filipino dance, which help work in Filipino martial arts footwork. Again, the classic double Kali Eskrima Aini sticks. I had the honor, the privilege, and pleasure of working with Dan Inosanto, also working with Remy Priestess, also working with Leo Gahe, Nene Natal. So I really get such a great appreciation of this display. It means so much. Now, as we look in the corner, we got to talk about someone who I had the honor, the privilege, and pleasure of interviewing at the Gathering of Eagles in 2000, and 2001 rather, and that was Bill Risaki. And Bill Risaki, and his unique infusion of Japanese karate and Hawaiian Kenpo, And to see one of these uniforms, which by the way, if I'm not mistaken, I actually interviewed him with him wearing that uniform. So we're going to be airing that in the near future, and it's such a joy, and what a legacy from one of the first episodes of Kung Fu, the TV series, dressed up as a Japanese fighter, to again we mentioned earlier, courtship of Eddie's father, and what a legacy, Rising Sun on down. He did so many martial arts films, and an honor and privilege to have known him and met him. Next, going on from Ernie Reyes Sr., the West Coast Karate Team, one of the Stars and Stripes uniform. Am I correct in that?
That's his uniform.
Wow, that's amazing. You know, so instrumental in perpetuating tournament demos and infusing the combination of Taekwondo with Arnis, and so many famous martial artists came from that school and that legacy. And we talked even with Cynthia Rothrock at one point being a member of the West Coast demo team and whatnot. So a true legacy in relationship to tournament martial arts in this country. And of course, Solomon Kaiwalu, and the man who perpetuated Luai here on the West Coast, and you know, the legacy of his instruction, and have the privilege of having a couple of his instructional videos. Never had the pleasure of meeting the man, spoke to him on the phone, but a person I do know very well, Michelle Manu. And Michelle's work and perpetuating her instructor's legacy throughout the world. And as we speak, is in the brand new issue of Black Belt Magazine with Michael Jai White on the cover, and a wonderful article on her legacy and her continuing the legacy of Solomon Kaiwalu. And against many of the le mano, or hand weapons. And very interesting in the depiction and her demonstrating the various weapons and promoting and perpetuating the memory and the legacy of Hawaiian martial arts. Fantastic. Like I said, I'm the kid in the candy store. The toughest thing doing this interview with you, Michael, is to not drool. Okay? Is just not drool. And it's just phenomenal here. And we'll continue on, a wonderful depiction here of Fumio Demura. And Demura Sensei, so instrumental in this country for the promotion of Shito-ryu and karate and kobudo, with his numerous books through Ohara Publications, and recently a friend of mine's through EM3 rather, videos promoting the different weapon arts he did for the next generation. And again, in the corner, small picture of Mike Stone. And you know, he's one of the few individuals I haven't met yet. You know, spoken to, but never got a chance to meet him. I'm hoping to meet with him and talk to him about his life and career. And since we're talking about kobudo, we have to go to this wonderful display of kobudo. And the kobujutsu weapons and kobudo weapons, of course, the sai, the nichogama or kama, the tonfa, which are really cool long tonfa. That's the long ones that I love. So, talk to me about this nunchaku, because I looked at the design and I was like, wow, that goes right in this. It was very old style with the pins and whatnot. Where did you get that from?
These are all donated to us by various individuals. Fumio Demura and a few others donated all these different things for us, so we're glad to have that on display.
Amazing.
And we have Ralph Castro and Fumio Demura's uniform here.
And I was going to say, was that one of was Ralph Castro's original belts?
Right, it is.
Wow, amazing. Ralph Castro, who was a student with Ed Parker and Professor Chow, and formulated the Shaolin KENPO system in California in the Bay Area. Yeah, again, Rick Alamany is another person from that legacy, and I've been learning the forms, so that way when I meet with them, I can demonstrate the various forms and talk to them on a more educated level. Back in 2005, Rick Alamany did a wonderful video depicting all the forms and the legacy of Ralph Castro.
Yeah, he studied with Chow.
Yes,
Yeah, he
Professor
studied with
Chow.
Chow.
Brought him in. Thunderbolt is here.
Yeah.
Put the big advertisement on the West Coast. Of course, we go on to Aikido with Moryu Yeshiba.
And this is one of our oldest uniforms, over 100 years old. The
Wow.
very first kendo uniform in America. This is it. There was a whole group of them brought over to us, and same thing, the very first judo uniforms that came to America back in the 20s. Actually, it came a little earlier, but these are the uniforms from back in the 20s.
Wow. We talk about the big three in Japan, of course, Moryu Yeshiba, and of course, Gichin Funakoshi, the founder of Shotokan, and of course, Jigoro Kano, of course, who created modern day judo, and incredible legacy for decades for the different individuals. All right, so now we go over here in one of my guilty pleasures, which of course ninjutsu. And being involved in ninjutsu for many years, and I always with different organizations, but never. I always said I got my ninjutsu black belt through osmosis, through training in different disciplines. Just saw Stephen Hayes, and one beautiful photo of Stephen at the Action Martial Arts event, and took me aside for a moment. He says, "How do you know everybody's name? How do you pronounce it correctly?" I said, "I speak 7 languages." He goes, "Besides all your martial arts stuff, you guys." He's like, "That's amazing." But what a legacy and relationship to Masaki Hatsumi, and now Toshindo with his legacy regarding that. And, it's really incredible. And of course, judo. And again, James Bregman was the first American to win the gold medal in the Olympics. And again, so many people that I know, Alan Coage, which he got his medal in judo the same year that Nadia Comaneci won the gold medals with Romania. As we look up, Al Dacascos. I'm wearing my uniform from KENPO International. He's one of our senior technical advisors. Studied Kung Fu, as I mentioned, with Wan Jok Man and Buksum Kong, and so many Kung Fu like greats, and also formulated his own offshoot of the Kaju Kempo system, which is Wunhok Kwendo. So it's just incredible seeing this as we go along. And when may use uniform? That blew my mind when I saw it here. And above that, instantly recognizable, the unique variation on the Spade uniform from Eric Lee. And I was so inspired, I made one myself. Again, and then going on, the weapons of China. So from the 7-star Kwando to the Peking spear to the crescent moon, moon teeth shovel. Again, the double-sided Gik or dragon spear with the snake run spear above it. And again, going on to the Dafu, or the double axes. And again, the Mandarin coin, also sometimes called the horseshoe rings. Of course, the Wu Dip Do or Bak Cham Do, if you study Wing Chun with the 8-slash broadswords, the Wu Dip Do with the butterfly swords. Of course, the Dao or Darn Do, and then of course the Gim, Chien, or Jian, as it's now called through the Pinyin dialect. And then, all right, so got to come into the picture for this, because you got to tell me the story behind these. We were talking earlier, but of course this is a part of the Gorn Bin or Whip Chain series, and the 3-section and the double ones. And I remember Y.C. Wong doing the form back in the day. Tell me where you got these and not the story behind this.
Yeah, these are actually Y.C. Wong's actual chain whip. Y.C. Wong did a series of performances back in the early 70s. Yeah. And I was volunteering, I was studying under Buksum Kong, and I was volunteering on Vernon Rayetta. And I was volunteering anytime they had an event, I was a volunteer as part of it. So Y.C. Wong performed the 3-section O on stage. It was fantastic. That's when I first met Chan So Chung as well. And I was there escorting them, which is really cool. And then one of the items he gave to, I think it was Vernon or Buksum Kong, which were these chain whips that he used that day. And so later they decided to sell it. They sold it to my teacher, who then sold it to me, and I'm very happy to have it on display. So this is part of a legacy, part of a history that I actually witnessed back in the 70s. Amazing. Y.C. Wong performing with these.
Wow. Now let's go on from here. Now this is again the Kenpo Joe moment for the show. So these particular elk horn knives or deer horn knives, these are not quote-unquote traditional. The only reason I say that is because I know who created them. We're here for Dragonfest. These were created by Gerald Nakamura. This was a series of weapons that Gerald specifically made for the Taipan company. And it's great because they're half handles. Normally, they're full wrap like you see here with the wind and fire wheels. So he made a set of half ones, and I always wanted a pair. And he also made another variation on the elk horn knife, which is beautiful. I have a pair of those as well. But the interesting thing behind these is I have a pair of them, and they were given to me by no less than Eric Paulson. And Eric Paulson was the Kung Fu Sansu instructor of Kathy Long. And I was going out with a young lady from Bakersfield, California. And she would communicate with him via online on AOL, dating myself very much. So when I went to visit her, we went to his studio, and he was pointing it out, and I was talking about these, and he says, "You like those?" I said, "Oh yeah, I know exactly where they're from." He took them off the wall, signed them to me, and gave them to me as a gift. And those are the magical museum moments. No one can ever buy. Again, we have the cymbals and drums here, and I really loved it. So I obviously recognize this one from Duck Fly Wong, the famous
Right,
Detroit master from
the
the
Duck
Bay
Fly
Area.
Wong.
And of course the various symbols used. Where's this one from?
This is from the 80 Mortals, and this is the one actually used in the LA Chinatown Parade. They used this one for many years, and they just donated it to us.
Wow.
Same thing as the cymbals and the gong from the actual parade.
Now what about the Southern style lion?
Uh-huh.
Again for the lion dance.
Yes. Yes, we have many different types of lions, and this
by all
one we
means.
have here, a nice Southern style lion that was also given to us from the 8 Mortals, so it's very cool. It's nice to have here on display. And again, we have Ark Wai Wong's actual one in storage. Carl Totten has that for us. And once we get the larger location, we're going to put Ark Wai Wong's drum and lion right there. So that's going to be pretty nice.
And again, for our viewers, each one of the dragons and the colors associated with it are associated with different famous Chinese entities. For instance, there's one with red and black that normally depicts Kuan Yu, and there's a beautiful, they have one in white and different colors depicting different characters from Peking opera and Chinese history. And again, since we're talking about Ark Wong, we've got to see the wonderful homage right here to the man and the legend, Ark Wong. I've been so used to, and you know, it's great nowadays that certain people have released videos of their old 8mm films of Ark Wong and him demonstrating the various arts with empty hand forms and weapon forms and the legacy. You know, just an amazing, amazing man, and so inspirational to the Chinese community as a whole by his instruction.
Right. He was a great man. I was very glad to have known him back in the early days. When I used to go to Buxom Kong School, he'd be sitting right there in front of me. I said hello once because I was too intimidated to say anything else. But I'm glad that I got to know him a little bit. So
amazing. All right, so we're going to finish with one interesting thing, and everything's interesting here. There's nothing that's not interesting. But come on over here for a moment. The last one I want to talk about is Fusheng. The flying guillotine.
Right.
I didn't even know you had one of these here. This is amazing. Tell me, I mean, as a big fan, for those of you watching, if you're familiar with Kung Fu films at all, The Flying Guillotine is a wonderful series of films depicting the use of this implement that was allegedly used by the royal guards or the assassination team for the emperor, that if he wanted someone taken out, and they would throw it, and there would be blades on the inside, and they would yank the chain or cord, and the blades would wrap around the person's neck, and basically you pulled it, and it decapitated the person. And there were several wonderful films made regarding this, and I have the originals, etc. How'd you get this?
Well, you know, I love the original. And it's
yeah.
great, and it's impossible to get the original. But there have been at least a dozen Flying Guillotine movies made since then. And we're very happy to have at least one of those from one of the films here. So very pleased with it. We've had it for here since about 10 years already.
Wow.
And everybody loves it and enjoys
yeah.
it. So you can't beat the Flying Guillotine.
No.
It's a classic weapon.
Exactly. And again, it's like the museum itself. It's unique.
Yeah.
And the whole uniqueness about this location and everything that's involved with it is just phenomenal. Phenomenal.
And as you can see, we're doing our best to keep our history alive through film, through TV, through legacy, through history, through culture, everything that we can to keep it alive, because nobody else is going to do it.
There you go.
Nobody else is doing it. If they would have done it, they would have done it already.
Right.
So I urge people, let's just get behind one, guys.
Right.
One place, one museum. Let's all focus on one effort to make sure that history is going to be kept alive.
Excellent. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we haven't shown you everything in the museum. Why? Because we want you to be here. We want you to come here to the Martial Arts History Museum in Burbank. We want you to take it all in. Pick up and enjoy the wonderful legacies of so much of this wonderful museum. And if you're a martial artist and, you know, maybe you know about some of the history, maybe you want to know some more about the history, this is the place to come to. And again, here with Michael Matsuda, this is Joe Rebelo, and until next time, keep training.